everyone, so I have recently felt this urge to downsize my makeup collection, and I filmed a video where I shared with you pros and cons in having a larger makeup collection and more variety versus having a minimal makeup collection. And that made it really clear that it's time for me to do a makeup declutter to get me a step closer to that ideal minimalist makeup collection. I don't know yet what that will end up looking like for me, and I don't think we are going to get there quite today, but I hope we can get closer. But yeah, first I wanted to show you an overview of everything in one big pile, and I got to say, this is way more what I want to have these days, so we're going to declutter it. Hi, it's Editing Katarina here. When I filmed the declutter, I forgot to mention that I have been doing the Minsk Game challenge this summer, and I did declutter some makeup products in that challenge. I do want to mention them also in this video because they were part of my collection until recently. So I will just pop pictures of them and do a voiceover when we get to those categories. Okay, so here's all of my complexion or base makeup products, and we are not going to stay here for too long because while I maybe would like to downsize some of these categories, I think I can get there by finishing the products, and I don't feel a need to declutter, and I don't have here anything that is just super old. So I do have 2 primers in my collection, and eventually I would only like to have one. I really do love this Catrice Sensational Primer. It is a true multitasking primer and it is my favorite, so that's the only one I want to have in future. But for sure I can still finish this First Aid Beauty Primer. I do have maybe half of the product left. It's just not a product that I really feel I need to use right now. It is a hydrating primer, so it works better for my skin when the weather starts to cool down. I do have currently 2 foundation products, so the Essence Fresh and Fit foundation, that is what I'm using right now. It is new. I recently finished the other foundation that I was using. And then I do have here a skin tint from Essence that I actually got from my sister. This one for sure is too light for me right now, so I'm going to use it in winter. Now, I will say about foundation that I feel the Essence Fresh and Fit is not quite there when it comes to staying power and maybe even coverage. I don't like full coverage foundations anymore, but this is like a light medium coverage foundation, and I do think my preference, if I was to only have one foundation in my collection, would be medium coverage. But yeah, these are the foundations I have right now, and I'm going to keep them. I do have one under eye corrector and I do have 2 concealers. However, I recently removed the stopper from my ABH Magic Touch concealer. There's still quite a bit of product left, but it is low enough so that I already purchased a replacement. So I wanted to try the Revolution Conceal and Hydrate concealer next. So yeah, when it comes to concealer, my preference these days is not super heavy duty concealer. I rather want to have something that is natural, and then if I need some extra brightness, I do use under eye corrector. I do have the Becca and Smashbox one. Then I do have 2 powders. I do have the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder, the original one, and then I do have the Huda Beauty Easy Bake and Snatch powder. I like to set my face with it on every day when I want a lighter set, and then I find this is also great for touch-ups. Also, I like the packaging because I do touch-ups with it. I want to have a sturdy packaging that I take with me, so really do enjoy that powder. And loose powder is something that I tend to use more for special occasion or for filming. Maybe in future, once I have gone through this product, I want to buy a loose powder in smaller packaging because I store my makeup in one makeup bag. Let me actually show it to you. So I do store in this makeup bag all of my complexion products, cheek products and eye products other than eyeshadows. Maybe in future I would also like to store eyeshadows and lip products here, but for now that is not doable. But a full-size loose powder packaging takes quite a bit of space from that makeup bag, and since it is not a product that I use on my daily basis, I think a mini would probably do. Then I do have only one setting spray. This is the Urban Decay All Nighter, and one is what I want to have. When it comes to setting spray, I totally don't need more. So yeah, these are all of the Complexion products that I have. I said we are not going to stay here for too long, but I ended up talking about all of the products. But yeah, I'm going to keep them all. Okay, so these are all of my cheek products, and here I know I'm going to do some decluttering. But let me first put the powders away for a while. So we're going to talk about the creams and liquids first. So these are all of the cream and liquid cheek products that I have. As you can see, I don't have too many. In the past, I wasn't really into cream and liquid cheek products, and even now I do prefer powders typically. However, if I'm going to do a quick no makeup look, I find that cream and liquid cheek products are easier, quicker, and more natural on those days. So because of that, I want to have a small selection of those. So the cream bronzer I have is the Catrice Melted Sun Cream Bronzer, and I got to say, I don't really like a cream product in this kind of packaging that is in a pan, because I find that this collects dust and other dirt too easily, especially if you do store your makeup brushes standing in a mug. Those gather dust and then the dust is here. And overall I feel this kind of cream formula is not as easy to work with as a liquid. So in future I think I want to get a liquid bronzer rather than a cream like this. However, for now I am going to keep this, and I'm going to keep using this one. Then I do have two liquid blushes. So these are the Essence Baby Got blushes, and I do have the shades Dusty Rose and Coral Crush. If something is called Dusty Rose, it typically doesn't really work for me because it tends to be too cool. I do have really warm undertone, but this one actually looks pretty nice. On me, it's not super cool. I find it's pretty neutral, and on me, it kind of looks like a natural flush color. I recently purchased this Coral Crush shade because we are now getting into the season that I reach for warmer tones way more than something rosy like this. So I got this one for those no makeup days, and I got to say, at least right now, this one looks amazing on me. It's really natural, fresh, slightly peachy. I was worried it's going to be too bright, but it's not. We'll see when I don't have any tan if it feels too bright then, but at least right now it works great for me. So I really do enjoy this blush formula. It's really cheap, also like 3-4 euros, something like that. So yeah, I'm for sure going to keep both of those. Then I do have the Essence Baby Got Glow liquid highlighter, and I'm going to keep this and I'm going to use it up. However, I don't think I'm going to repurchase this one because I just feel a liquid highlighter is kinda unnecessary product in my routine, because I use cream and liquid products only when I want to go for really quick and natural makeup looks, and I typically use then a more glowy foundation. Well, the only one that I have gives kinda this luminous finish to the skin, so I feel a liquid highlighter added to that is just a little bit too much of glow. And yeah, in general I don't feel it's necessary, but I do think this is a decent product and I am going to finish it. Okay, so these are all of my powder cheek products. So I don't have too much, but I know there's a couple that I want to let go of. First, I do have the Too Faced Sweethearts bronzer. This one is pretty old, and as you can see, I have gotten good use out of it. I'm going to keep it. I'm trying to finish it. Originally, I thought I want to finish it this year, but now I know that is not doable. I'm now using the darker side because I do have some tan, but in winter, the lighter side is better for me. So I actually ended up depotting this bronzer, and it's crazy how big the packaging is compared to the pan itself. I put a magnet on the back and put the bronzer to my magnetic palette. Okay, then I do have here the Benecos Natural Fresh Bronzing Duo. So this is a blush and bronzer duo that I got from the Pip box. I typically have only used the bronzer as a blush, but last spring I used it also as a bronzer and I really didn't enjoy it. It's just too orange for me, but I have enjoyed this whole product as a blush. However, I'm going to declutter this one. Although it is a nice blush shade for someone who wants to go for a really warm, kind of like burnt toned blush, I find that it's a little bit too dark for me. So let me swatch it. I'm also going to swatch the blush side, although that one I never use. Sometimes I mix them though. With blush, my motto these days is less is more. I feel blush is a product that can so easily get out of control, and this product is just too difficult for me to apply in a natural way. So this product I'm going to declutter, and I have totally learned my lesson that I will never again get any subscription boxes, because from those you always end up getting products that you don't like. This is actually one that I have enjoyed more, but still this is something that I would have never bought on my own. Okay, so these two are Essence the blushes, and as you can see I have depotted them. I really hate the packaging where they come. Essence most of the times makes really horrible powder packaging. This highlighter is in a nicer one, but typically they do a really cheap plastic packaging. I'm going to keep both of them. This one is this shade Bespoke, and this one is a beautiful bronzy blush. And this is a reason why I don't feel it's necessary for me to keep that bronzer and blush duo. This one, if I want to go for bronzy blush, gives me way more natural look. I feel it's easier to apply, and it's just a beautiful color. So yeah, I'm also going to keep this one. This is the shade Be Dazzling. It is a really pale, kind of like nude, really neutral nude. Doesn't lean too cool, doesn't lean too warm. Sometimes I wish it wasn't completely matte, because I feel an all matte blush can look really dull on me. And maybe I would prefer it in a glowy formula like the Bespoke one. But yeah, this is what I have right now, so I am going to keep it. Okay, then I do have here two powder highlighters. This one is the Essence Pure Nude Highlighter, and it is in the set Be My Highlight. This is honestly, in my opinion, the best highlighter ever made. This specific one is not available, at least here in Finland, and I don't think it's well available in Europe either. This one is really old. I think at some point I was kind of saving it, and anyways I enjoyed a more blinding highlighter, but now I really do not like something like that. This is a beautiful glowy highlighter. It's so subtle, it doesn't have any weird glitter to it, it's just perfect. When I swatch it, it doesn't really look like anything, but on my face it's just perfect. It's my favorite highlighter ever, so for sure I'm going to keep it. Then I do have the Becca and Smashbox Champagne Pop highlighter. It is a beautiful highlighter, but I feel it leans a little bit too orangey for me to wear it other than when I have proper tan, and it just like little bit too much. I just feel I need to be kind of like extra careful with it so that the glow doesn't get out of control and I don't start looking straight up shiny. Also, this one is newer. I think I bought it about a year ago, and I just don't reach for it. I would never reach for this one over the Essence one. So I'm actually going to declutter it because it's just going to sit in my collection and expire. It is still not too old, so it's better to let someone else to have it than keep it myself unused in my collection. So here we do have the first product I decided to declutter in the Means Game challenge. It's my Depotted Marie Luminizer highlighter. I used to love this highlighter back in the days, and I have actually finished one of these back in 2010s, and it looks absolutely beautiful when I swatch it, but I don't know if this one expired or if my preference just has changed, but this one looks quite chalky every time I apply it to my face, so that's why I decided to declutter it earlier in the summer. Then I do have one cheek palette. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Nude Chasm palette. Now I will say I have not used it too much, but I don't think it's because it is a cheek palette. It's more because I have been so focused on some of those singles that we have talked about before. So here we do have one highlighter, one blush and two bronzers. I'm going to keep this. Hopefully I can get some more use out of it now. This highlighter is also a reason why I don't feel there is a need for me to keep that Becca Champagne Pop, because this one is actually pretty similar. So if I ever wanted to go for a more glowy highlighter, I do have this one. They are so close. This one is just maybe a little bit less orangey. Let me swatch the blush next to my blushes. This blush is a beautiful kind of like burnt orangey type of shade. I have not worn it too much, but I hope I can get some more use out of it now that we get to fall. Okay, so in the Mince Game Challenge, I decided to declutter some eye makeup earlier this summer. I had an unused pair of brown false lashes from Technique. I definitely want to buy brown false lashes in future, but these were just way too long for me. I had a backup of the Essence Bye Bye Panda Eyes mascara, which I decided to declutter. Also, I decided to declutter a backup for the Physicians Formula Eye Booster eyeliner. Both of these backups were black, and I just find that brown is a way more flattering color for me when it comes to eye makeup. Okay, so let's move on to eyes. These are all of my eye products except eyeshadow, and as you can see, this area of my makeup collection is really curated, and I'm going to keep all of it, but let's quickly go over it. I do have two eyeshadow primers. In future, I don't know if I really need to have a glitter primer, especially because I don't like glittery eyeshadows, so I probably don't need it in future, but for now I'm going to keep it. The regular eyeshadow primer that I have currently is the Milani eyeshadow primer. I do have two eyeliners. I do have a brown liquid eyeliner if I want to do a winged eyeliner, and then I do have a nude waterline pencil. Pretty often I just use dark brown eyeshadow as my eyeliner. I only want to have one mascara open at once, and I really do love this Essence mascara, this brown one. It's so good. So I do have one that's open, and I do have a backup. I do have one brow powder. This is the Catrice Brow Powder Duo, something like that. I got to say, I'm not the biggest fan of this formula. This one is really powdery, and I feel it can be quite messy. Typically, I do use one of my brown eyeshadows as my brow powder, but that one is in my magnetic palette, and on those days when I want to go for a really quick and natural makeup look, I don't care to open that palette, so I use this one instead, and it works, so I'm going to keep it, but wouldn't repurchase after I have finished that one. Then I do have one pair of false lashes. I used to be someone who had multiple backups for my false lashes, and I used to wear them like every day. Now I don't do that anymore. I really wear false lashes only on special occasions, so I feel only one pair is good. I do have the Ardell Demi Wispies in black. In future, I think I want to get them in brown, and then I do have the Catrice Lash Glue. But yeah, I'm going to keep all of these. Okay, so let's move on to eyeshadows. These are all of my eyeshadow palettes currently. I just don't really love eyeshadow anymore. I feel that is such an unpopular opinion, like in the beauty community, but I just don't love it, and specifically I don't love eyeshadow palettes, because in palettes there's always shades that I don't like. Let's start with the palette that I'm going to keep for sure. This is the ABH Soft Glam palette. I think if there is a palette that is my kind of color story, it is this one, because this one is warm neutral palette, and it's leaning on the light side. Sure, there are some darker colors here too, but it is not too dark. This palette also is newer in my collection. I got it right in the beginning of the year. I have hit one pan there, but it was because the shade was in my Pantos eyeshadows. There are a couple of shades that in future I might end up decluttering. The shade Rose Pink, then Noir. However, although there are those couple of shades that I don't necessarily love, I'm going to keep the palette the way it is right now, and maybe later if I notice that I never wear those shades, then maybe I will declutter them, but for now the palette is going to stay the way it is. Then two other palettes that are newer in my collection are these Huda Beauty 9-pan palettes. These palettes I bought on Black Friday last year, and I will say, if they were less used, what they are right now, I probably would declutter them. So here's the Toffee Brown Obsessions. As you can see, I have hit a couple of pans. And then the Gold Obsessions palette, I have decluttered one shade, and then I have hit couple of pans, so here and here. I would declutter them if they were less used and I would give them to someone else. However, because there's so much use on them already, I don't feel comfortable giving them to anyone else. Because of that, I'm going to keep these palettes for now, because on the other hand, they are not old and expired, so I cannot just justify throwing them to trash at this point. Now, when it comes to Huda formula, I really do love the mattes. They're really firmly pressed, so there's not a lot of fallout like there is with ABH eyeshadows, for example, but then these are still really easy to work with. However, the shimmer formula I'm not the biggest fan of because it's just too glittery, and I'm sure there are people who appreciate it, but I'm just somebody who is a really boring eyeshadow person. I like either a subtle satin or then I like a metallic formula where there's not any glitters. Yeah, because of that I don't love the shimmer formula, but in this palette I like it better than in the gold palette. So this palette I'm going to keep the way it is. However, let's talk about the gold palette, and let me put those away for a while. I actually really hate the shimmer formula here for the most part. The only one that I like is this one over here, because this is more creamy, so it doesn't feel quite as glittery and gritty. I don't know if you can really see it. It's like, I feel some of these are almost like toppers, but this is like a pinky champagne tone, and something like this actually I would enjoy as my all-over lid shade in winter when spring is just behind the corner. That's when I love to wear something like this. So I actually think I will try to finish this shade next winter and spring. However, the other shimmers in this palette I pretty much hate, so I'm actually going to crush them out of this palette, but let me swatch them to you first. I actually don't hate the formula of this first one, but I hate the color. It is like a pinky gold. There's just too much pink there. Okay, now that I am swatching this third eyeshadow, I actually don't mind it. You know what, maybe I'm going to still keep this eyeshadow. I was recently able to hit pan on it on my Pantos eyeshadows, and I don't mind the tone of this one. This is kind of like a neutral shade. Works great on every day. I just feel it's a little bit more glittery, what I would prefer. But I still think that this is doable to finish, because these shimmers go really quickly. But this gold over here, honestly, this one looks like a Christmas ornament. It's just so glittery. Like, yeah, some people may think it's pretty, but for me, if I wore this one, it would feel like the eyeshadow is grabbing all of the attention, and I just don't want that. So I'm going to declutter that one. And then this peach over here, the color is pretty, but what is an issue for me with this one is that it just feels really uncomfortable and glittery on my lids. And I do have another shimmery peach that I way prefer over this one. So from this palette I'm going to declutter the pinky gold, this gold, and then the peach. So let me crush them out of this palette right away before I have any second thoughts. Because sometimes the project panner in me says that, oh, I can finish it, I can hit pan. But I straight up hate those eyeshadows, so I don't want to try to force myself to use them. I don't have any official tools to do it, so I'm just going to use my like spike hair comb. Oh my god, this is so satisfying to see these eyeshadows going. There they are all crushed, and then let me still empty the palette. Okay, so here's the palette after getting rid of those shades. I'm going to clean those pans still later, but now that those are gone, I actually like this palette way more. It's kind of like a neutral pinky, but not still too cool toned palette now. And I can see myself getting good use out of those remaining shades. I do have the Juvia's Place the Nubian 2 eyeshadow palette, and this was supposed to be my next year's Pandat palette. I have been doing kind of like a prep my Pandat palette with it, where I have decided if I'm going to keep or declutter the shades for the sake of panning it. And so far, as you can see, I have decluttered 2 shades. But now I have decided that I'm going to declutter the whole palette. I'm just going to keep 2 shades from here. I really used to love this color story when I first got it in 2018. Back then I had a way bolder makeup style. I enjoyed creating some bold eyeshadow looks. I liked to do some colorful looks here and there, and I just think for me this was a great kind of like neutral with pop of color story. But I never allowed myself to use this too much because back in 2018 I also started project panning. When I have done project panning, I have always been hyper focused on the products I'm panning. And now this palette just doesn't represent me anymore. It's not my color story, it's too bold. But a couple of the shades that I really do like, I do want to keep from this palette, and they are Madagascar, that is like my most perfect kind of like yellowy brown eyeshadow, and then Suri, which is like a golden toned really light champagne. I could wear it as an inner corner highlight or as a lid shade if I want to go for a really light lid color. So let me try to rip the palette open and pop those two eyeshadows out. Okay, so here it is, my destroyed Juvia's Place the Nubian 2 palette that is going to get decluttered. Okay, and we do have my singles left. They are in this magnetic palette. This palette is from Tarte, they don't have it anymore, but I really do love this palette. The rectangular ones are old depotted The Balm eyeshadows. The lighter ones are from The Balm Meet Matte Trimony palette, and they still work great, so I'm going to keep them. I think I want to start working on the cream one and try to finish it as my lid setting shade, because I do prefer the tone of this one if I'm going to do like a cream lid shade. However, the browns are from the Balm Meet Matte Nude palette, and that palette I bought in 2015, and these eyeshadows are just really dry. It doesn't matter with the darker one, because that is what I use on my brows. If I wanted to use this one as an eyeliner, for example, it would not work because I would need to build it and it would end up being really messy. But with my brows, I prefer if I need to build it a little bit. So I'm going to keep the darker one. However, this lighter brown one I am going to declutter. It doesn't really perform that well anymore. I have tested it a couple of times within the past few weeks, and it now goes really muddy when I try to use it. And then in the ABH Soft Glam palette, there is the shade Rustic, and that is actually really similar in tone, but that is a formula that still works. So I am going to declutter that eyeshadow. And then these three mattes are depotted from the Colourpop I Think I Love You palette, and they still work great and I really do like the tones, so I'm going to keep all of them. Then I do have here two other matte eyeshadows. The first one is depotted from the Juvia's Place the Nubian palette, the original one, and this one I really like. However, I do have here the Nabla Caramel Single. This one is like a mustardy, kind of like light brown, but I don't really like this Nabla formula. I don't know if you can notice it, but even when I swatch it, I feel it goes on kind of uneven, and I feel this is one of those that is a little bit hard to blend out. And anyways, although I love the idea of mustard eyeshadow, I just don't really do that. This eyeshadow that I depotted from the Juvia's Place the Nubian 2 palette, this one is actually pretty similar, and it's totally similar enough so that I don't need both, but I do think this is more versatile. And then if I want to actually go for yellow eyeshadow, I do have this yellow in the Huda Beauty palette. So I just don't feel there is a need in my collection for this Nabla eyeshadow, and since the formula I feel is kind of like more difficult to work with, I'm going to declutter this eyeshadow. Okay, then the rest of the shades are shimmers. I do have three. This, and this. They are depotted from the Balm Shady Lady Special Edition palette, and they are actually satin finish eyeshadows. I really do enjoy them. Let me swatch one of them. So this one, for example, it's just really pretty. I do still have all of the glitter from those Huda Beauty eyeshadows here. I don't know if the camera picks it up, but yeah, this one is just so much more my preference. Then this eyeshadow over here is from the Pacifica Solar eyeshadow palette. Most of the eyeshadows from that palette were like trash, but this one is just such a beautiful like metallic eyeshadow with no glitter whatsoever. Then I do have here a peach that was depotted from the Juvia's Place the Nubian eyeshadow palette, so this is a reason why I don't feel a need to keep the peach in the Huda Beauty Gold palette, because this formula I way prefer over that one. And then I do have here like rose gold. This is from the Colourpop I Think I Love You palette. Really do like that. But then I do have here the Jester from Makeup Geek. If you have been watching my Pantos eyeshadows, you know that this has been in that project for months, and I have only used it twice in May, and I have not reached for it ever since. It is a beautiful eyeshadow, don't get me wrong, but I don't feel like myself if I have on colorful eyeshadow, even if it is in my color palette. So I'm actually going to declutter this eyeshadow. Okay, so I did pretty good job in eyeshadow declutters. Let me still open all of the palettes, all of the eyeshadows that I decided to keep. So it's not like in nicely organized right now, but here you can see what I decided to keep. Really much only warm neutrals, but you know what? I have not felt this good about my eyeshadow collection since starting collecting makeup in 2015. This is really my tones. And here you can see the eyeshadows that I decluttered, plus the 3 Huda Beauty shimmers. They already went to trash because I crushed them straight out of the palette, but I just feel so relieved to have these eyeshadows out of my collection. And I feel now that I have those eyeshadows that I don't love out of my collection, maybe there is a chance for me to actually fall in love with eyeshadow again. Okay, so these are all of the lip products that I have in my collection. So I'm just very first going to address these products. These are some lip balms. I do have an Oriflame one. I'm not really that much into MLMs, but my mother-in-law is like an Oriflame consultant and she always gives these to us, so that's why I do have it. So this one I actually use and I'm going to keep it. I don't really count lip balms to be makeup unless it is a tinted one, but I do have these in my lip product container. However, this one is an old and dried up lip balm that I got from the Pip Box. I got the Pip Box in 2020, so no wonder it is dried up, so this one needs to be decluttered. So these are all of the colored lip products that I have. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to first pull out those that I know for sure I'm going to keep. These 2 lip glosses are almost gone. As you can see, they're on their last legs. So this is the Fenty Gloss Bomb Lip Gloss. In general, I'm not that much of a lip gloss person anymore, but I'm going to finish these. Then I do have an almost full Fenty Gloss Bomb in Fenty Glow. I do have 2 of these because I lost the old one, then I replaced it with this one last year because I really loved it. Now I got to say it's not necessarily a favorite color of mine. I feel it's maybe a little bit too dark for me, so and because it's a lip gloss formula, it doesn't stay on so well, so I'm a little bit worried that it's going to smear all over my face. However, I am going to keep this because soon those 2 other ones will be gone and this is the only lip gloss that I have. I do think this is nice for natural makeup looks, but also it works great as a topper for lipstick. But in future, I don't think I would repurchase. I would rather want to go for something lighter, if I even want to have a lip gloss at all. Okay, then I'm going to keep all of my lip liners. I do have 3. So I do have the Gosh Velvet Touch lip liner in Simply Red. This one is really old and dry. However, I'm not going to buy a new lip liner before Black Friday. I want to get one with a good deal. So I'm going to replace it then, but until then I'm going to keep it. Then I do have 2 nude ones. I do have the BH Cosmetics Waterproof Lip Liner in Earth and the Charlotte Tilbury Lip Cheat Lip Liner in Iconic Nude. The BH Cosmetics one is more like a pinky peachy one and the Charlotte Tilbury one is more like a brownie nude. So they are really different and I actually feel there is a place for both of them. So I'm going to keep all of the lip liners. Then I'm going to keep my Charlotte Tilbury Hot Lips 2 lipstick in Red Hot Susan. This is my favorite red lipstick. This for sure doesn't work for someone with a cool undertone to their skin because it's going to pull really orange. But on me this is a really beautiful red that doesn't really clash with my skin tone like I find a more blue based reds tend to do. So I'm going to keep that. I'm also going to keep the Charlotte Tilbury lipstick. This is from the wedding collection and this is the shade Nude Romance. This one for me is a really nice kind of like brown nude that has a little bit depth there. This is the Catrice Scandalous Matte Lipstick in the shade Nude Obsessions. I think this shade is unfortunately discontinued, but this is a really beautiful lighter nude. I find that light nudes don't really suit me because I feel they tend to make my jawline that is already kind of weak to begin with. So I feel a really pale nude tends to make that area even more blurry. But this one I do like because it's not too pale and the tone is really great. It's just a beautiful beige nude, so I'm going to keep that one. And then I'm going to keep this one. This is the KVD Everlasting Liquid Lipstick in Lolita 2. This one is pretty old. It's like 3 years old, so I have decided I'm going to keep it still this fall and winter, and after that, if it's not gone, I'm going to declutter it because then it's just too old. I'm going to keep these. These are the Essence Hydrating Nude lipsticks. These are, in my opinion, more like lip balms. I do have this shade Delicate, and this one is more like a warm rosy tone. Then I do have this shade Divine, and this one is a really light peach. I find this is something that I need to be on my palette to be able to pull it off, but I think it will work for me in winter. So I actually do prefer something like this over a lip gloss because this is more hydrating and not as sticky. So I'm going to keep these two. And then now we really get to the area where I'm not sure. Maybe I will pull out those that I know I'm going to declutter. I'm going to declutter my Essence Hydra Matte lipsticks. I really don't like this formula. It's sort of dry feeling and I don't like these colors. I do have the shade Peach It, which is kind of like a spring color when it comes to the seasonal color analysis and even the season. This one is just too bright on me. When I wear it, it feels the lipstick it's wearing me. Then I do have the shade Honestly, and this one sounds great. Like technically it should work for me as an autumn, but unfortunately this one pulls too cool on me. Like it doesn't have that warmth that I would assume a honey lipstick to have. So I'm going to declutter those. And then I'm going to declutter this one. This is the Catrice Scandalous Matte Lipstick in Rosy Seduction. This one just, I feel, is slightly too bright on me. Again, one of those things that I feel the lipstick is wearing me, not the other way around. But on camera, for whatever reason, this one looks nice. But then on real life, I don't like it. So I'm going to declutter it. And then these two are something that I'm not sure. I feel I'm not ready to make the decision right now because we're not in the season when I would actually wear them. These are both a little bit more leaning cool toned. I do have the Catrice Shine Bomb lipstick, I think it's called. Yes, and this one is in the set Divine Femininity. So it is like a more cool toned, kind of like shimmery lipstick. I feel this is coverage wise step up from the Essence ones, but I would really wear this one like a tinted lip balm, so without a lip liner or anything, on no makeup days. And then I do have the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk, the original one. This is described as a universal pink nude or something. I actually don't think this is universal at all, because this one is kind of like neutral in tone, in my opinion. It's not fully cool, so I would assume on someone with extremely cool undertone, this might pull a little bit too warm. But then on me, as someone with extremely warm undertone, this one tends to make my lips look like they're turning blue. So this one probably works best on people with muted and kind of neutral complexion. So I don't agree with the claim of that being universal. But it's Charlotte Tilbury. I like the formula, so I just cannot let go of it at this point. Also, this is not a color I would wear this time of the year, so I'm going to make a decision about that one in winter, when we're actually in the season, when I would be more likely to gravitate to something like this. Okay, so these are the lip products I decided to declutter, and these are the lip products that I decided to keep. I think in future, when it comes to options, I think 10 is the absolute maximum. Lipstick is one of those products that I like to change it different seasons, but I still don't want to have too many options, and maybe this is a little bit too many, I don't know, but I feel way better now that I have these lip products out that I just don't like at all. I somehow missed the Huda Beauty liquid lipstick in the shade Miss America that I got as a gift with purchase earlier this year. I'm not that much of a liquid lipstick person, but I will say this one is really thin and comfortable. However, I feel it's almost too thin because it's really wet and difficult to apply without making a mess. I like the tone. It's a true red that doesn't lean too cool or warm. That being said, I wear red lipstick so rarely these days that I only need one in my collection, and the Charlotte Tilbury Red Hot Susan is just the perfect red for me, so I'm going to declutter this Huda Beauty lipstick. Okay, so these are the makeup products that I decided to let go of. I know that it doesn't look like too much, but honestly I feel so relieved that these are leaving. I hope I can enjoy my makeup collection a little bit more and feel better about it now that I don't have these products to worry about anymore. But that is everything for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, and I hope you would subscribe if you have not already. Thank you for watching and see you in my next one. Bye bye!